Hey fam, what's up? Kyle Henderson, Andrew Bone. It's 12:30. It's Friday, a couple days before Christmas. You've already had a bunch of early Christmas presents with this incredible signing class with the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's Andrew Bone. I'm Kyle Henderson. One more time, hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're staying warm. I got my jacket on, Bone. I mean, I think this morning was like 2 degrees in beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Today, we're going to talk superlatives, kind of break this class down, keep you guys here. You guys can post your questions inside the comment box. We have some time. We'll get to them. Let's get right to it, Bone. When we look at this class collectively, we'll start in the offense, then we'll go to the defense. In terms of a starter on offense, is there any guy within this class that could potentially be a day one starter for Alabama? I know it's crazy because they say freshmen don't play at Alabama, but we've seen that be debunked. What you got, man? First, a day one starter. Is there any on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think there is. I think the one guy I'll mention is already on campus, and that's Malik Benson. He's the top junior college player in the country out of Hutchinson Community College. He's already enrolled at Alabama. He's already started participating in bowl practices. Now, he can't play in the bowl game, but he's going ahead and practicing it. And I've already been hearing some really great reviews about Malik since his arrival in T-Town. So really excited about him. I think he's going to have an opportunity. There's some great young talent at the wide receiver position. And I know there's been all this talk about the receivers over the course of the last season, but a lot of those guys are young. I mean, we saw a lot of freshmen get a lot of playing time this season. Kendrick Law, Isaiah Bond, Kobe Prentice, Chaz Preston started getting in there a little bit at the end. Those guys are going to continue to develop, get better, and I can certainly see them, going to another level as sophomores. But with Malik Benson coming in, a guy that's had over 1,200 yards receiving as a freshman at Hutchinson, had over 1,000 yards this past season. I mean, this is a guy who had an unbelievable JUCO career. Came out of Lansing, Kansas, didn't have any scholarship offers really coming out of high school, and knew that he needed to go to junior college because of his academics. He's been open and honest about that. He said, I didn't have the grades, needed to go to JUCO. But the good thing about going to junior college is a lot of programs are going to pay attention. They're going to notice you, and if you do well, they are going to track you down, and they're going to offer you a scholarship. And Alabama did a great job of recruiting Benson from start to finish. He had one of his position coaches actually went to Tennessee. One of his position coaches at Hutchinson went to Tennessee in a support staff role. Thought that Tennessee could potentially get in there. I think they were the leader at one point. But after his official visit to Alabama, it was pretty much a done deal. And there were some schools that continued to recruit him down the home stretch. But in the end, Alabama won over his recruitment. But this is certainly a guy that I can see making a big impact as a true freshman. And I'll throw one other guy out there. Caden Proctor, 5-star offensive lineman, freshman. This guy is unbelievable. I think that you see some of these offensive linemen who have come in throughout the last several years, whether that's Cam Robinson, J.C. Latham, Tyler Booker, Andre Smith. I mean, they've had a lot of really good, Evan Neal, a lot of really good, talented, high-end offensive linemen signed. But also a lot of guys who might need a little bit of time to develop. Caden Proctor looks fully developed already. I mean, he is an impressive, physical specimen. He's going to be there in January. I think he's going to certainly make a strong push for early playing time. So those are two guys right off the top of my head that I feel like are going to contribute early in their career.
Here with Andrew Bone, a Bama Insider. My name is Kyle Henderson. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys being with us. A couple more days and everybody will be with their family, open up gifts. You've already had your gifts as Nick Saban has put together this incredible class. Here with Andrew Bone, we're doing our superlatives. So we're kind of rewinding, talking about what stands out from this class. And we talked about the day one starters on the offensive side. Bone brought up the two guys that he thinks could potentially make a push. Now we look to the defensive side, and same question, Bone. When we look to this class and you look to some of the players that are exiting out from Alabama's current team, and as we look to 2023, this is all rat poison, I guess you could say, but from a physical and developmental standpoint, where these guys are coming in early and early, whatever. On the defensive side, same question. Is there a guy that could potentially make a push, maybe two guys on the defensive side that we could see as a freshman making waves for the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Well, kind of like offense. I mean, anytime you can get players on campus early, especially in January, to start competing and start working out, being around the team, going through spring practice, the winter workouts, all that good stuff. You're going to have a chance to contribute. And I think when you look at, linebacker, inside linebacker, Justin Jefferson coming in from junior college. Alabama doesn't like to recruit players from junior college or recruit players from the transfer portal unless those are guys that they feel like can come in and contribute right away and can, provide an immediate impact. So, really looking at Justin Jefferson as that guy who's going to have that athletic ability. It's already played 2 years at junior college, so he's ready to see the field at Alabama. He's eager to get out there and make a name for himself. So he's certainly somebody that we're watching pretty closely. Another one, Caleb Downs. I mean, in my opinion, best football player in the entire country. Number one safety, number one recruit from the state of Georgia, is already on campus at Alabama. There's no doubt in my mind he is going to see the field as a true freshman. How early will it be?
Mhm.
I'll be shocked if he's not out there in game one in some capacity. Maybe not be as a starter yet, but we're going to see Caleb Downs on the field a good bit as a true freshman. So those are two guys on the defense side of the ball that I'm really excited to see play, but also believe they're going to have a great contribution, be able to make a great contribution to the team next fall.
Hey, with Andrew Bone, we're talking superlatives from this incredible class. Again, hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. There were a couple surprises, but when we label like the biggest surprise commitment, what stands out for you when you kind of put together everything? And now that kind of the dust has settled a little bit, was there something that you're dialed in? Our guys, Jimmy Stein, Clint Lamb. The guys are dialed in. But in terms of like someone who was a surprise commitment, who was that for you when you look back?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will automatically assume Desmond Ricks because we went into this week thinking LSU, and then it kind of changed in the last hour. But I think you got to go back a little bit. I think you got to go back and look at Justice Haynes' recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who is a 5-star recruit, number 2 recruit in the state of Georgia. He's a Georgia legacy. His father, Veron Haynes, played at Georgia, well known there. And he was the top priority for the Georgia Bulldogs. Had a great relationship with the coaching staff there. Dell McGee, running backs coach, built a tremendous bond with Justice Haynes throughout the process. Everyone assumed he was going to Georgia. You look at the On3 Sports RPM right there back in the summer. It was all Georgia for Justice Haynes. Now, it felt like Alabama did a great job recruiting him, but in the end, I think even Alabama felt, in the end when he committed, I think even Alabama kind of felt it was going to be tough for him to say no to Georgia. But once he committed to Alabama, he was pretty solid throughout. Now, he did take a couple visits, visited Georgia for the Tennessee game, went to the Georgia-Oregon game. But keep in mind, his father played at Georgia. His father's still a Georgia fan. His father wanted to go see the Georgia Bulldogs play a little bit. So Justice wanted, he was going to go watch them too. And, obviously there was a lot of talk that he was going to eventually flip to Georgia because there was no way he was going to sign with Alabama. Yes, he committed, but no way he was going to sign. But he never really gave Alabama any doubt. He always stayed true to his word. He had built a lot of great connections with players in the class, built a good connection with fellow running back commitment Richard Young. He's always been excited about Alabama, and Alabama fans should be excited for him. One of the best athletes in the entire country, already enrolled in Tuscaloosa. So big get there for Alabama, but in my opinion, probably the most surprising get, just because the Georgia connections there, being the number one target on the offensive side of the ball in the state of Georgia for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's always kind of tough, especially when you're coming off of winning a national championship. The Georgia Bulldogs did last year over Alabama. Don't think that Alabama's going to be able to go into the state of Georgia and sign the top 2 recruits in the Peach State, and they were able to do that.
Bone, when we look to the biggest, not the biggest surprise commitment, that was a mistake on my part, but kind of the biggest surprise loss. a guy that, there's always flips. I mean, I love it because, when you track the recruiting process, I mean, you commit and then you decommit and then you announce your top five. And, we've seen it go on and on. But in terms of a loss that Alabama had, was there any that really stand out when you look back at this class? And, I know they're the number one class, but could they have, was there a guy that got away that maybe Alabama, plays against down the road, whatever? Who was the biggest loss?
Well, I think Arian Carter committing to Tennessee over Alabama. He had told some people off the record, including myself, that Alabama was in great position for him. He was just going, on a few more visits, going to enjoy the process a little bit more before making that final decision. It was all Alabama, including after his official visit to Alabama, which he committed to Tennessee about 2 days later. Josh Heupel had called him shortly afterwards, and then he ends up making that decision for the Vols. So I thought that was a surprising loss, but probably
Mhm.
the biggest loss, in my opinion, was Peter Woods, in-state five-star defensive lineman. I think maybe we have him as a four-star, but in my opinion, he's a five-star recruit. I mean, this guy is an absolute wrecking ball on the defensive front. Out of Thompson High School, there he is, five-star consensus rankings.
Yeah.
I was really surprised Alabama lost out on Peter Woods because this is a kid who started going to Alabama games, started being recruited by Alabama when he was a freshman at Thompson, had been recruited for a very long time. And I thought Freddie Roach, a lot of people gave him some crap about losing out on Peter Woods, but Freddie did everything he could to recruit Peter. I mean, he was communicating with him just about every single day throughout the entire recruiting process. And it was just one of those situations where Peter felt a little bit more comfortable at Clemson than he did at Alabama. Had a really great connection with Dabo Swinney, and I think that's what really kind of won him over. So I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with Freddie Roach or anybody like that, but he just had a better connection with Dabo Swinney there. So yeah, I think going into this recruiting cycle, we all felt like Peter Woods was a definite lock to sign with Alabama just because of his connections to the program. He had friends on the team. He grew up a diehard Tide fan, and it was a big position of need. So losing out on Peter Woods to Clemson, big loss for Alabama. But you look at the overall defensive line class. I think they're pretty excited, especially after landing the number one defensive lineman in the country on signing day in James Smith.
Here with Andrew Bone. If you could do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, like, subscribe. Being a subscriber of Bama Insider, it really helps the website, Bama Insider, the physical website, when you can go read all the great coverage by the whole entire staff, Jimmy Stein, Clint Lamb, Joseph Hastings, Andrew Bone, but also right here on our YouTube channel. So hit the bell. It's located somewhere here on this video, whether you're watching on your phone or on your computer, whatever. We appreciate you guys' support, inching closer to 90,000 subscribers right here on Bama Insider. Going through our superlatives after Alabama has the number one ranked class again. Bone, the most underrated from this class. I think when people look at this class, I mean, there's so many 5 stars, but maybe there might be a guy in there that's a little lower rated that is going to develop. And I love the developmental process of these prospects once they get to Alabama, and especially if they're an early enrollee, because I see an early enrollee. Think about all the time they have. If you've been following Alabama football for a long time, the fourth quarter program starts end of January into February, and then you get spring ball. So these players are exposed to this early process, competing against other dogs, the other best in the country. And by the time they enter this next 2023 season, are they even really true freshmen anymore because of how much time they've had? So when we look to the most underrated entry in this class, who you got, Bone?
Yeah, I think I got to go with Edric Hill, 4-star defensive lineman out of St. Louis. I mean, this is a guy that, On Three actually has him in the top 100. But if you look at all the other sites around the country, he's kind of in that 200 range. On Three is kind of the outlier there, putting him in the top 100. But he's a 6'3", 295-pound defensive lineman. Can play just about any position on the defensive front. Very aggressive. Has plays with a high motor. Strong. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Fidarian Mathis coming out of high school. I think he's going to have a chance to make a big impact on that defensive front. There's all this talk about James Smith and how great he is, but I think Edric Hill is certainly a big impact player. Does he make an impact as a true freshman? we'll just have to kind of wait and see. But I think in the long run, this is going to be one of the stars of Alabama's recruiting class, Edric Hill. Just really excited about what he brings to the table, and I think Alabama fans need to pay a little bit more attention to Edric Hill because all the talk about all these 5 stars that are in the class, the top 100 guys, top 100 consensus guys. Edric Hill is certainly a star in this class. I think he's certainly one of the most underrated players.
I love this next superlative, Bone. Bone sent me this whole list that we're running through. And the Bone and I, we work. I mean, it's Bone. Is it? We work well together.
What's funny is I sent you the list of all these superlatives that we were going to go over, but going into this show, I never really thought about what players. So I'm kind of coming up with the players in my own head right now.
And honestly, I just got back from getting a haircut and I got your email. And so I have the list pulled up on another screen. So I didn't even look at what you were sending me. So I'm ad-libbing on this side. So, it's kind of funny, but Bone and I have that symmetry. I love this next topic, the most confusing recruitment. And this is the best because,
I did know about this, who this was going to be heading into it. No doubt about it.
So who you got? Well, tell us the backstory.
Tony Mitchell. I mean, good Lord, that was a fun recruitment to follow. I mean, he kept everybody guessing throughout the entire process. I think what many people probably forget is he was originally a Tennessee committed to Jeremy Pruitt and Tennessee coaching staff back when he was just a freshman at Thompson. This is a 4-year starter at Thompson High School, best high school football program in the state of Alabama, Class 7A, won 4 state championships in a row. He was a starter on all 4 of those teams. Tony had a wild recruitment because after he decommitted from Tennessee, there was all this talk that it was going to be Alabama. Alabama was in the driver's seat. He went to, I think, during his junior season, attended every single Alabama home football game. I mean, we were just kind of waiting until he was going to make that decision for Alabama. We thought he was going to be an early commitment, held off. We kind of got into the spring, and Florida and Texas A&M overtook Alabama at one point. And, it was going to be one of those 2 schools. And then he ended up, I think he dropped one of them at some point. And then he ends up taking a visit out to Texas A&M, and everybody thought he was about to commit there. Well, then he ends up making a trip to Tuscaloosa, and it was like a midweek visit, maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday, came back that Saturday with his family. And it was almost, things had completely shifted into Alabama's favor. About 2 weeks later, commits to the Crimson Tide, but it was a long way until we were over with Tony's recruitment, because he ends up going to Texas A&M pool party or whatever you call it in July, when he had told reporters that he was going to Alabama's cookout. I think even the day of, he was saying that he was going to Alabama. So, he wanted to keep things just, pretty tight-lipped, probably went about it the wrong way. He should have just probably stayed quiet rather than telling people that he was, going this place or going that place. A little bit of misdirection, but that's okay. And then I saw him, I guess it was maybe October or early November. I went out to Thompson High School, did some interviews, and, he was pretty open and honest. And he told me, he said, I'm still, I've said to people that I'm 100% solid with my commitment to Alabama. And he said, I am, but I'm still visiting Texas A&M, still talking to Auburn, still might take a visit down to Florida, but I don't want anybody to know that. I wanted just to kind of keep it quiet. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it. He just wanted to enjoy some more trips. And I think the following week he took a visit out to Texas A&M, and, he didn't want us to report it. Just wanted us to keep it extremely quiet. I think some things came out maybe after that trip that everybody was assuming that, oh, he's about to flip to A&M, but it's something that we knew about. Now, the last couple weeks of his recruitment were, pretty wild, because there were reports that he was in Auburn. Now, he still denies those reports to this day that he was there. And he even told his high school coaching staff, Mark Freeman, the head coach at Thompson High School, told me, he said, I've talked to Tony. He said that he wasn't at Auburn. Auburn people swear that he was there. Maybe he was there, maybe didn't want it out, but who cares now? And then the final couple of days of his recruitment, took an official visit the following, the final weekend to Texas A&M. we didn't think Texas A&M was a very realistic threat there. We thought it was going to come down to Alabama and Auburn, and I think even on Monday or probably Tuesday, I think he was still expected to sign with Alabama, but there was a chance that he could go to Auburn, and there was a lot of conversations that happened over the final 24 hours, and in the end, he decided that Alabama was the best fit for him. So it was definitely one of the wildest, most confusing recruitments that we've seen throughout this entire process. So, but in the end, Alabama was able to win that recruitment over.
Here with Andrew Bone, a Bama insider. We're talking superlatives. That was a great kind of nugget there, Bone, and talking about Tony Mitchell and kind of the recruitment process. As we continue, I want to get your take on this. The biggest flip. I mean, was it the last minute flip by Caden Proctor from Iowa to Bama? I know you talked about Proctor earlier. Was there another prospect that you felt was the best flip considering the needs for the Crimson Tide? Maybe not like newsworthy, but in terms of needs, I don't know, however you want to kind of go about this, but the best flip in your opinion.
Well, there's a lot of kids in this class that were either previously committed somewhere and then eventually committed to Alabama. There was a few flips. You look back, Ty Lockwood flipped from Ohio State. I think probably the biggest flip, though, in my opinion, was Caden Proctor. Flipping his commitment from Iowa. That was certainly a huge get for Alabama, because at the time when he flipped his commitment, Alabama only had 4 offensive line commitments. Raymond Polito. A lot of people didn't know this, but Raymond Polito had actually decommitted from Alabama in November. Told Alabama coaching staff he was decommitting.
Yes.
He wanted to stay a little bit closer to home. Of course, there were reports that came out. I guess we broke the news, but that he had flipped from Arizona or from Alabama to Arizona, but that necessarily wasn't the case. He had decommitted from Alabama, about a month prior, and then committed to Arizona after taking an official visit out there, but just wanted to keep things quiet. So Alabama only had 4 O-line commitments heading into December. So getting another addition was really important to the Crimson Tide, because I do think that if they wouldn't have gotten Caden Proctor, they would probably be looking into the transfer portal for some more help. So this was a big get there. Not only the talent that he brings to the table, but because he's an instant, impact player. He's a guy that, is going to provide a tremendous amount of depth at the position, but, he's got the talent to potentially be a first-round NFL draft pick here in the future. So best flip, in my opinion, is Caden Proctor.
Here with Andrew Bone, talking some signing day superlatives. Be sure and like and subscribe. We got some great coverage coming your way next week as the staff heads down to New Orleans. Clint Lamb is getting there the 26th. I'll be there the 28th. We got our whole crew pretty much going down there, so that'll be exciting for Alabama versus Kansas State, and check out the Alabama Crimson Tide in the Sugar Bowl. When we look to this class and everything that's been put together in terms of filling those needs, what was the biggest need met? When you look collectively, as you're talking about Proctor's, the offensive line, adding that size, and Eric Wolford and the job that they did. Is it another areas, the receivers, biggest need met on early signing day?
I think you have to go with the offensive line, and we talked about Proctor just now, but Alabama only signed 2 offensive linemen. Now, technically, they signed 3 offensive linemen last year, but Dane Shore, he ended up leaving Alabama. So really they only signed 2 offensive linemen. One was Tyler Booker, who played significantly this fall. The other one was Elijah Pritchett, who tore his pec before the start of the season, but started playing a little bit towards the end. Those 2 guys are very talented, but they really needed to have a home run class here at the offensive line position, which I feel like they did. But they also went after some really big guys. I mean, you look at Caden Proctor, 6'7", 345, 350 pounds. You then look at Wilkin Formby right there, 6'8", 310. Miles McVay, 6'7", 350. Raquez McElderry, probably the smallest of the group at 6'3", 330 pounds. And then you have Ola Salinan, who is 6'6", 325 pounds. So a lot of meat to work with there on the offensive front. I mean, it is, there's some big boys there. So I'm really intrigued to see these guys and how they're going to develop over the course of the next couple of years. In my opinion, it always kind of takes offensive linemen a year or two.
Yeah.
They've got to develop. They got to get that baby fat off of them. They got to get stronger. They got to get in the weight room. They got to get with the nutritionist and get their body right. But I think Alabama is extremely excited about this overall group. I think they've got a lot of talent there to work with. And like I said, I think Caden Proctor may be the most physically advanced right now as far as potentially, out of all these offensive linemen, as far as potentially playing early.
Mhm.
But this overall group is going to have a chance to make a big impact here in the future in Tuscaloosa. So I certainly believe that as far as biggest needs that were met, offensive line has to be right at the top of the list.
Okay, and the opposite side, the biggest need that is not met, and does that mean that Alabama could still potentially put something together within the next couple of months? I mean, kind of like hinting towards a transfer portal edition, or I don't want to start, no smoke and blow your email up, Bone, but which need was not met?
Well, I think tight end. I think Alabama signed several tight ends in last year's class, but I still think we saw Alabama. They were able to flip Ty Lockwood away from Ohio State, which is a great get, but they still wanted some more. I mean, we saw the push they had for Luke Haas, tight end committed to Arkansas. Lawson Lucky had taken some trips to Alabama. I think he took 4 or 5 trips to Alabama after his commitment to Georgia, but those guys remained solid, and Alabama kept pushing, and they just they didn't really budge on their decision. So just from watching Alabama as far as going after certain positions, certain players, and I would have easily said cornerback if they wouldn't have added Desmond Ricks on Thursday night, but that was obviously a huge get. But I think tight end position certainly a need that they still want to fill. There's one tight end that's out there in the transfer portal right now that Alabama has offered, and they're in the final 2 for, and that's C.J. Dupree, a 6'5", 6'6", 260-pound tight end who is going to be making a decision on December the 27th. So we're going to be watching that decision next week. It's between Alabama and Ohio State. And Merry Christmas. My prediction for him is Alabama. So we'll see if that happens, but that's my prediction as of right now is
Jeez.
Alabama. Well, I don't like to give out those predictions. We like to do those on Bama Insider, but you can come over to BamaInsider.com and check out some more stuff. But yeah, I'll throw that out there for you guys for a Christmas present, a free prediction on what CJ Dupree will do here in the next few days.
And I think it's important for people to understand, if you're watching here, that you can catch up with Andrew Bone, the whole staff, all the time back at Bama Insider. So pull out your phone
Every day.
every single day. It never stops. I go on, if I can't sleep or whatever, I'm go on there and see the Bone posted at like 3 something in the morning about some prospect or answer some question or debating with somebody. So go to the website, Bama Insider, and chill with all the crew. How about this one, Bone, for some rat poison? Future, I mean, you better coach better not hear this. Future Heisman contender. There's a lot of dogs in this class. I mean, the Heisman contender, really? What you got, Bone?
Let me tell you something. I've done this in the past, and obviously, Alabama's not going to win a Heisman Trophy winner every single year. But I have hit a few in the past, which were kind of easy. When we've done these superlatives, Derrick Henry, Bryce Young, those are some guys that we had as future Heisman contenders in our superlatives back in the day. So it's always kind of tough, though, because there's certainly a lot of guys that we have put in that list that did not make it. In my opinion, though, I think that Justice Haynes is one of those guys that's going to have a chance to really be a Heisman contender one day. I think his athletic ability, his strength at the running back position, the offensive lineman that he's going to be running behind here in the future. There's 2 really good running backs in this class, and I think you could go with either one of them. As far as Justice Haynes and Richard Young, but I think Haynes, he had an unbelievable career. He was at Buford High School as a senior and played at Blessed Trinity the last couple of years, and just had a remarkable career. I think he was the number 4 rusher in the state of Georgia history, which is incredible. Thinking back, to, all the great running backs who've come out of the Peach State, forever. So he's going to have a great chance to be, that future Heisman contender for Alabama.
I mean, as soon as you asked the question, Bone, the comment box was lighting up. They were like, Justice Haynes, Justice Haynes, Justice Haynes. So, I mean, just saying. Okay, so we got another one. We got a couple more to go through. You're checking out Superlatives with Andrew Bone. My name is Kyle Henderson. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys being part of our family right here on Bama Insider. Bone, a player who could see the field early that nobody is talking about. We talked about potential day one starters on the offense and defensive side, but one of these players that through the developmental process or where kind of things are on the roster, who's a player that you could see getting on the field that right now nobody is talking about as we enter, not even the the end of 2022 and kind of looking at spring ball, things like that.
Connor Talty. He's a kicker out of Chicago. He's a guy that is the only 3-star in Alabama's recruiting class, and he's going to have an opportunity. And I'll throw out one other guy for y'all. I know Connor Talty was probably a little too easy, but Connor's going to have a great chance to contribute early in his career. I mean, Alabama only offers kickers once every 3 or 4 years. They're expecting him to come in and make an impact early on in his career. Replacement for Will Reichard. I know that Alabama was hoping that he would get there in January, but his school does not allow early graduation, so he's going to have to get there in the summer. But he's certainly a guy that we're going to have a chance to see on the field early on. And then one other guy that, and this is going to be a little bit of a challenge just because of how deep the position is, and that's at wide receiver, and that's Jalen Hill. Jalen Hill is one of the most electric football players in the state of Texas, in the entire country. He's about 6'1", 190 pounds. He's got great speed, quickness, great route running ability. He's going to be on campus in January. I mean, he had over 1,100 yards receiving, 16 touchdowns during his senior season. Incredible hands. He's going to really push some of these guys because they're like I said, there's some talent there. And Malik Benson coming in, Malik Benson already being on campus. But Jalen Hill is no slouch. He is an absolute dog out there on the field. And I think he's going to have a chance to really see the field early on in his career just because of the type of talent that he possesses. And I think once he gets there, a lot of people are going to see that.
Our next item that we're talking about right here on Bama Insider. I love this. I mean, if you were a fan of NCAA football and you played on the PS3, I still play. I still have Dynasty rolling. But there was always that period after the season where you could change players' positions, right, based off like their attributes. When we look to players, Bone, that are on, in the signing class, who are some players that you could potentially see being recruited, here to be one particular position, maybe change because of, their athletic talent or, how Coach Saban sees them? Who are some players that we should watch?
Well, I am intrigued to see kind of what Jahil Hurley ends up doing. Recruited as a cornerback, listed as a cornerback, but there's a chance that he can move around in the secondary. But I think as of right now, he's going to go to Alabama as a cornerback and start his career there. Definitely a big position of need for the Crimson Tide. But the one guy who is guaranteed to change positions is Bray Hubbard. Bray Hubbard won Mr. Football in Class 6A, the state of Mississippi's highest classification, 2 years in a row as a quarterback, and never played safety before, but is recruited as a safety by Alabama. Went to Alabama's summer camp back in June as a Southern Miss baseball commitment. Did not really have many offers at all. He was a guy that needed to go to camps. Went to Alabama's camp in mid-June, or maybe it was early June. Mm-hmm. Earned a committable offer at safety, and then you got to think about this. This is before Caleb Downs had made a decision. Before Tony Mitchell had made a decision. There were some other safeties out there that we had previously discussed that everybody thought were top end guys for them that had not made decisions. Bray Hubbard goes to Alabama's camp, works it out in front of Coach Saban for the very first time at safety for the very first time, gets offered, gets a green light to commit before any of these other guys had made decisions. Of course, it makes all these fans on our message boards just automatically, he got an offer because Caleb Downs and Tony Mitchell, they're going elsewhere. They must feel bad about those guys, so they offered this guy. No, he just absolutely balled out at Alabama's camp. Ran a 4.50 in the 40. Has great size. Nick Saban's evaluated a lot of safeties. Works with a lot of defensive backs. Works with defensive backs every single day. I think he knows a thing or two about the position. So when he's out there and he evaluates guys, he offered him, and that should say enough about the type of talent Ray Hubbard has. Now, it's hard for us as evaluators to say, "Oh man, he's an unbelievable safety prospect," because I think he only played safety in one game during his senior season. He had never played it before. And of course, in that game, he had 2 interceptions at safety. But it's incredible to see kind of the path that he's gone throughout his career. He lost his mom to breast cancer a few years ago, and always plays for her. And
Mhm.
I'm sure she has really enjoyed watching down his career and how it's kind of shaped out, and certainly looking forward to see how his development is. Tuscaloosa, I don't think he's probably going to see the field right away just because he's never really played the position before. But man, I'm excited to see kind of how he gets involved and transforms into a safety here over the course of the next couple of years.
Oh, I love it, man. That's good. I've been writing notes because I want to recut a couple of these videos, and I put this one down because I think that's a good story. I mean, nobody's really talking about him, and you have all these 5 stars and kind of the backstory of him. Really good stuff. How about this, Bone? This is gonna be hard. I want your comments inside the comment box as well. The best overall player in the class. Now, Bone, how are you going to do this? Is it like the best like player, future prospect? I mean, it says player, but I mean, so what you got here?
They're probably going. I guess there's going to be 26 players mad at me. I mean,
Well, you can't talk to them soon enough once they get on campus anyway. So
yeah, there it is. It's done, and all of them are already enrolling early anyway. So I'm done with them. So Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is the best player in this class. We talked about him earlier, but there's no doubt in my mind he's best football player overall in the entire country. And the safety position gets devalued a little bit just because you don't see safeties drafted in the top 10, in the top. Sometimes in the top 15, but you never really see safeties in the top 10. And
me
that's
too.
kind of what.
Fitzpatrick says, "What's
Yeah.
up?"
So a lot of times when you're ranking players, you're not basing it off of how good they are in high school.
Mhm.
You're not basing it off of how good they're going to be in college. You're basing it off of how high are they going to be drafted in the next couple of years.
Mm.
And so you look at Caleb Downs there, and that's pretty high ranking for somebody, what they think he's going to be in the next couple of years for the
Mhm.
NFL draft. So I think he's the best player. You go watch his film. I mean, it's unbelievable. His closing speed, his ability to come up and make big plays. I mean, he started on both sides of the football at Mill Creek. Now he can just completely focus in at the safety position. But there's no doubt in my mind, he's not only the best player in this class, he's the best player in the country. Go watch his film. It's absolutely incredible. And I think pretty much any national recruiting analyst throughout the entire country would say the exact same thing. He's just a special, special football player. A lot of comparisons to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Yeah, I think he's just going to be Caleb Downs. That's who he's going to be. We're going to be talking about him for a very long time.
Bone, so does this come to your next superlative? Is he the most important recruit in this class, or is it him and then A1A somebody and 1B somebody else, or do we stick with Downs right here?
Downs was a very important recruit.
Me too.
I think that, yeah, I'm gonna go with somebody different though, and I'm gonna go with James Smith. Number one player in the state of Alabama, defensive lineman. We talked about the loss of Peter Woods earlier.
Mhm.
Kelby Collins, another in-state defensive lineman, ends up going out of state, signing with Florida. So getting an in-state defensive lineman, priority position,
Mhm.
an impact type player, a guy who can move up and down the defensive front. He's not just limited to playing on the interior. He can play on the outside. I mean, he's a playmaker on the defensive line. I'm really excited to kind of see how he's going to perform over these next couple of years. But I think from a perception standpoint, it was really important for Alabama to get
Mhm.
Not lose another in-state defensive lineman, but also to get an impact player and somebody that you feel like can come in and make a big impact on your team, getting the number one recruit in the state of Alabama. I felt like he was very important and very vital to this class. We felt like James was likely heading to Alabama. His teammate Quay Rousseau also went to Alabama, so you could probably lump Quay into that as well, being the number 2 recruit in the state. But getting both of those guys on board, very important for the Crimson Tide. To kind of put a bow on the in-state class, but also 2 guys that can really help make your defense better. I don't want to say transform, because Alabama's known for defense. Some struggles a little bit, but these are guys who have the right mindset that you want. You look back at some of the star players on the defensive side of the ball through the years that have really been great leaders, great motivators, and great players. And
Mhm.
these are 2 of those type of guys that have that right mentality that are coming in. So I think it was very important for Alabama to get those 2 guys on board.
When we look to players that have, I mean, all of these players have high ceilings, but when we look to guys who, have this other range, you can talk about once they get into the system and they start working out with David Ballou, start understanding the process, being a part of the organization, as Nick Saban likes to say. I mean, it's far out, but in terms of like a very high ceiling, and because sometimes I find that when players get here, especially being at the top of their game, sometimes they've maxed out in a sense. I mean, you've seen that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it happens. But a player that has a ton of ceiling, who would that be, Bone, from this class?
Well, I think you got to look at a couple of these edge rushers like Yonze Pierre or Keon Keeley. I mean, Yonze is incredible speed off the edge. I don't think he gets enough love, but I also think Keon Keeley. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Keon Keeley is 6 foot, almost 6'6", 200, and I think he's over 250 pounds now. There is a lot to work with there. I mean, this is a guy had almost 40 sacks in the last 2 seasons. I don't want to say he's going to be Will Anderson, but Will Anderson had 40 sacks his junior and senior season combined. So this is a guy that's going to bring a lot of excitement, a lot of skill to this position. I think he is an unbelievable athlete, and he's certainly a guy that probably has the highest ceiling of anybody in this class, just from his size, his speed, his high football IQ. I think he's going to be a great player at Alabama.
And Bone, I remember you talking about Keely, and one thing that stood out to me was when you were talking to him, when you guys were talking, he said that he really liked the game of Terrell Lewis and Christian Miller, right? And when I look back, of course, William Anderson, one of the best to ever come through, him and Derek Thomas. But from a physical standpoint, I really appreciated what Terrell Lewis and Christian Miller brought to Alabama in terms of this new edge rusher, the prototypical size, 6'6", 245. Each of those guys were in that same range and very lanky, very athletic. So to have Keon Keeley coming in, it's good to hear when you talk about ceiling and where this guy could be, because I think like he clearly has the size to be a dominant player, not only at Alabama, but far in the future. And because I had great respect for Terrell Lewis's game, and same with Christian Miller. And I think, hey, Christian Miller, if you're out there, I see you getting the media game. You're doing a great job. Continue on your craft. Big fans of your endeavors. But when you're looking at that, it's good to hear that, Bone. All right. So the best recruiter from this class, and every single year we see this, guys who really help put this class together, guys from the class 2023 that call out to other guys, get other guys to sign, help them see the larger spectrum other than the coaches. So the best recruiter, recruit wise, who is that?
Well, I think you're gonna have to go with Richard Young. I mean, he was very active on social media, but that's just something that the fans and reporters see. You don't necessarily see things that are going on behind the scene, or the calls that are being made, or the text messages, or any of that stuff, or the DMs on social media. That's just something that we don't necessarily see, but it's happening a lot behind the scenes. And Richard Young was certainly one of those guys that spent a lot of time recruiting. I mean, even when he made it to Tuscaloosa, spent a lot of time talking to different guys, trying to get them to Alabama. And even, there were some other guys. Justice Haynes was a big help. I think that, Miles McVay, he was another guy, even when he wasn't publicly committed to Alabama. He was recruiting other guys to join them. But I think you got to go with Richard Young. I mean, he was really active behind the scenes, and so no doubt in my mind he was probably the best recruiter in Alabama's class. Now, was he in Tuscaloosa every single weekend at every single home game? No, but he was doing it, from his hometown in Lehigh Acres.
All right. So rounding out, we got the best recruiter, but on staff. I mean, I'm curious to see what you say right here. Sound off in the comment box. I know you guys have been keeping up with Bone and the guys who have been recruiting, but what's your take, Bone? What you got here? This is a big one.
Yeah. I thought there was two guys that came in and did an unbelievable job in their first year at Alabama, and that was Eric Wolford and Travaris Robinson. Coach Wolford coming in, having a great offensive line class, flipping Caden Proctor, being able to hold off Miami for Ola Saline and keeping Wilkin Formby at home. It's probably a little bit easier, than most of the others. But Rockwez McElderry flipping him from Georgia, then going up to East St. Louis and getting Miles McVay. And then you look at Travaris Robinson, the job that he was able to do. I mean, Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, even though there was some help there, he was the lead recruiter for those guys. Getting Desmond Ricks on Thursday, helping keep Tony Mitchell on board, Jahil Hurley. I mean, those were all guys that he helped recruit. But one guy who, has probably, unnecessarily gotten a lot of, negative feedback on, message boards, on social media, Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach was unbelievable in this recruiting cycle. There were a couple misses, beyond his control, but you go back and you look at the guys that he helped sign. James Smith, he helped with Quay Rousseau. Charles Kelly was the lead recruiter for James Smith and Quay Rousseau, but co-lead was Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach played a big role in recruiting those two in-state guys. Hunter Osborne, he was the lead recruiter on Caden Proctor. So that was a big win. He was the lead recruiter on Edric Hill, who I raved about earlier today. Jordan Renaud, top 100 defensive lineman out of Texas. I mean, he had a great class. Hunter Osborne, in-state defensive lineman. I mean, it was a really good class for Freddie Roach, and I think the entire Alabama coaching staff and everybody who works at the athletic facility was really impressed with what Coach Roach did, and I think the fans need to take a lot of note of the job that he did. Not necessarily the guys that they missed out on, because there were some other factors involved, but I think that Alabama did Freddie Roach did a great job recruiting in this year's recruiting class. Just unbelievable effort there. So those were probably my top three guys right off the top of the bat. Eric Wolford, Freddie Roach, Travaris Robinson. But the new guys on staff, they were brought in because they were known as great recruiters. Obviously great position coaches as well, but they came through, they delivered for Alabama in a year that they, we kind of went into this recruiting cycle. Alabama had lost the national championship last year. They lost 2 games this year. All this talk behind the scenes about, dynasty's dying. They're not the same program anymore. They assigned the best recruiting class of all time, at least in the modern rankings era. 7 5-stars. You go into these different states and pull in the top recruits, especially in the state of Georgia. It's been an unbelievable job. A lot of pressure on these coaches. I mean, there's not a lot. I talked to a coach today, and he said, Alabama, they hadn't been on vacation since July. There hadn't been a break since July. They've been focused on football team, focused on recruiting. That's all they've been able to do for the last several months. And people don't, people just think, oh, you coach and then you go home at night. No. You recruit, you coach. And so it is, it's a nonstop thing. It's not only at Alabama, it's, programs all over the country. Coaches all over the country are working nonstop. But, to see what Alabama was able to do with this recruiting class overall, absolutely spectacular. So we'll see kind of how they're going to develop these guys over the course of the next couple of years. Is it going to, On paper, yes, it is the best class ever. But is it going to stack up to some of these other great classes 3 or 4 years down the road? Is it going to stack up to that 2017 class with, Tua and Mac and Devontae Smith and all those other guys, Jerry Judy and Najee? I mean, Jedrick Wills, Alex Leatherwood, a pretty special group. 2008, 2009, those were special groups as well. And I think in the mid, 20 teens, there were certainly a couple really good classes there too. But pretty remarkable job by the Alabama staff overall. Really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out over the next couple of years.
Man, this is good, Bone. I mean, we planned to go for 30. I told you that we get close to an hour. I didn't want to rush. I got a haircut. I flew back. You sent me the email. I knew you'd knock it out of the park. Yeah, yeah, right. Yours easier. Just to keep
Get that summer fade.
Yeah, get that summer fade in.
Or excuse me, Christmas fade. My bad. I've got COVID brain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, we appreciate you guys more than you know. Hit the subscribe button. You know where you can find Bone back on Bama Insider. I'm on the YouTube channel. You can always hit me up. We appreciate you guys. We hope you guys have a Merry Christmas with your family. Bone, before we break out, what you guys got planned over there in beautiful Homewood?
Well, we had some plans, and then we ended up testing positive for COVID today. So I guess we'll be kind of laying low. So not a real lot of fun over here today. So I'm sure our families are really excited, but that's kind of our plan. So we'll be hanging out, watching some movies, maybe pick up a new show. Enjoying. I got a nice little train set. My 1-year-old's not going to be watching this show, so I got a nice little train set that I'm going to be putting together for him. This, I guess, tomorrow evening, so he'll be excited about that. Come Christmas morning, but we do want to wish everyone, happy holidays and a happy New Year. We'll probably come on the show before the New Year, but everyone who watches our show throughout the entire year and follows BamaInsider.com, we can't do any of this stuff without you guys. So really appreciate all the support throughout this entire year. We got a lot of stuff still coming out on BamaInsider.com. We're dropping our class grades today. So that's coming out. I think my offensive grades have already come out. Joseph Hastings, he's going to drop the defensive grades here in the next little bit. We got an in-depth interview with Desmond Ricks plus his father on BamaInsider.com right now. Clint Lamb's got a great breakdown on the where things stand with Alabama's overall offensive line unit heading into the spring. So a lot of coverage still on BamaInsider.com. Even though it's the holidays, we're still working. We still got a lot of great content. And guess what? The Sugar Bowl is coming up pretty soon, and All-American Bowls are also happening. So we'll have Joseph Hastings at the Under Armour All-American Bowl practices next week. So he'll be providing a lot of coverage on BamaInsider.com.
Before we go, hey, look, Bone, you do a great job, bro. Real respect, real. I've always been a huge admirer of your work ethic, your grind. I'm so glad that you had such a great year, and a lot of it comes from your hard work, your dedication. I really, really respect the grind, man. So keep it up. I wish you and your family nothing but well wishes as you guys go into 2023. It's going to be a great year for you guys and for everybody watching Bama Insider. Be good people. Never a bad time to hug somebody that you love. Enter 2023 with that strong vibe. Be good people. We appreciate you more than you know. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm Kyle Henderson. He's Andrew Bone. Merry Christmas, fam. And to all, a good night.